Greetings, we're going to take a look at our next problem. So what I have here, this is a side view looking in at a mobile piece of scaffolding. All right. So what we have here, looking at the side, we have this, there's an axle-like contraption here that we can see. All right, so here's a wheel and there's a wheel. So, have the road basically right in there that it's going on. B is along this line is basically is a little stud here coming up, and the idea is you would mount weights on it. So these would be where you put counterweights to keep the thing flat in the ground. So here's the support structure, and it goes up to this little nest where somebody would stand and do some work. And so there's up to 400 pounds, and it would be considered to be, the center of mass for that would be at G2 right here. So relative to this wheel, if you look, that's 2 feet out from that wheel. So that's going to make this thing wanting to tip. It'll go whoomp that way. All right. For the overall scaffolding here, G1 is its center of mass, or center of weight, center of gravity, 250 pounds. So we know what that's there. 400 is the maximum weight that we can have there. And then the question is, what's the minimum amount of weight we need here to offset that so this thing doesn't tip over? All right. So at B, when we put counterweights here, how much do we need minimum to compensate for 400, up to 400 pounds up there? All right. So for any of these problems, the first thing you should always do is do a free body diagram. And I've done one. So we have that right here. So here we have, so notice up at the top, there's our 400 pounds. Okay. And that would be 2 feet out from the wheel. And then we'd have the normal force of supporting the wheel here at point D. Likewise at point C. Here's FB, where we'd see an arrow down. This is where our counterweights would be. And then here, so relative to the outer edge of the wheel, you can see 1 foot over is G1. So there's 250 pounds there. So that's everything. So we'll note that this is 1 foot out. So we have 7 feet to get to the counterweight location, 1 foot to get to the other wheel. You only had to, relative to this line, we'll just follow that up. G1 is 1 foot over. And if you went 2 feet the other way, you get the 400 pounds. So we want to figure out how much weight we need there. Well, let's see. How is this thing going to fail? Well, if there's too much weight up here versus the counter here, this thing will tip this way. So the failure mode is tipping here at D. So we want to find what's the minimum amount of weight here so this won't tip. All right. So let's think about it. So we're going to have tipping right at this spot. If we're trying to find the minimum amount of weight here, all right, so we're right on the edge of tipping. This is the critical part of this problem then. What is the normal force of the road floor at this spot if this is on the edge of tipping? Well, it's 0. If it means it's just barely in contact with the floor. The floor is having to support it at all. All the support is here at D. And if you add 1 more pound up here, oink, you're going to lose it. All right. So that's a huge key. When you're at the edge of tipping, one of the supports typically should be at 0. And that's what we have there. All right. So once you have that, then the logical thing to do is to sum the moments at D. Because if it's tipping here, well, this force isn't exerting a moment at itself. So, and this is 0 because it's at the edge of tipping. So I know this force, I know that force. Then I'll just have one unknown. Solve for FB. And that's what I have right here. So summing the moments at D wipes that out. This is 0, wipes that out. Notice I put it in here for a moment. This force relative to D would be going clockwise, so it's minus Fc times 8, but this magnitude 0, so the term disappears. Then I have FB times 7, that's not a question mark. All right, that'll go counterclockwise, so that's positive. Then I have 250, 1 foot over this way, so that would be counterclockwise, that's positive. And then 400 pounds, if we brought it down to here, 400 pounds, 2 feet, that's going clockwise. It's negative. So I have one equation with one unknown. Solve for FB. It's 78.6 pounds. And this problem is done. So we're going to move on to our next problem. And the comment I would make is that all of these problems are fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of getting a free body diagram and figuring out a strategy. And it's typically do one moment. We'll do a free body diagram, figure out your strategy, take one moment, sum forces, and you're out. All right. Now, I'll just comment. The next chapter that we do, it continues rigid body equilibrium. But the difference between what this chapter does and the next chapter is that to solve the problem, you might need to do 2 or 3 free body diagrams. Okay? So the principles of chapter 5 are going to take us through chapter 6 and chapter 7. And all that's going to happen is that the free body diagram situation or other things get a little more complicated. All right? So all these problems that we're looking at, single free body diagram, and you can knock off the problem. All right. So our next problem, we have a bar that's suspended above the floor by 2 springs, A and B. The spring constant for A, 5 kilonewtons per meter, it's known. And what we want to do is, and we know there's an 800 Newton load, 1 meter away from A, 2 meters away from B. Find the spring constant needed such that with this load, as this load happens and this thing goes down, it stays horizontal. All right. So this is the free body diagram then. It's not really that exciting. 1 meter here, 2 meters there. It's pretty dull. All right. So let's see what we have. With some forces in the y, that'll be 0. That's plus FA plus FB minus 800. And if you look at that, you come to the quick conclusion that there is not enough information to solve it because we have 2 unknowns. No sweat. All right. So let's see here. This is a convenient point. Suppose we take the moments at A. We could do it at A or B. Both work. You want to, you don't know the force in A, you don't know the force in B, you got to get rid of one unknown. I tend to read left to right, so I tend to do things in the left. So we'll just start with that. Some of the moments at A must be 0. Because this goes through point A, it has no moment. Ignore it. Here's 800, 1 meter away, going clockwise, so minus 800 times 1. And here's FB, going the opposite direction, times 3. All set. Solve for FB. This is just algebra. FB is 266.67 newtons. All right. So now if you stick this into here, we know FB, we got 800 is 800. Solve for FA. And we'd get FA is 533.33 newtons. All right. Now, so knowing the force in the spring, that's going to be equal to the spring constant of 5,000 newtons per meter, or 5 kilonewtons, which is up top here at the moment. All right. 5,000 times some displacement. I'll call that y1 for sake of argument. So divide through the 5,000, and you'd get y1 equals 0.1067 meters. Okay. So now, by the way, if I was to give a problem like this, a lot of people would take it this far. Well, they quite frankly would say, oh, I figured out both of the forces, and they'd stop. Because they'd forget about, oh, I got to do this beam staying horizontal. So always on an exam, read the questions. Make sure you finish the question. You could be perfectly right to this point, and then you don't finish it, and you lose, a whole bunch. So just be careful about that. So I know the deflection here. Well, that must be the deflection there. All right. So FB is 267.67 newtons. I know the force. And there's going to be a spring constant there. Don't know that, but I do know how far it's going to deflect, 0.1067. All right? Divide through, we get, put it over here, KB is 2499.3 newtons per meter. Or, raising this up, we'll just call it 2.5 kilonewtons per meter. And there we have it. All right. I have one more problem to do. I'm going to put that into a second video or another video, and I'll see you soon.